Welcome to Super Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today we have with us Rylee Meek. How are you, Rylee?
Doing well, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing amazing. So glad that you took the time to come on our show.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. So I was just talking to you earlier that you're just coming back from a trip and you're just plugging in. So yes. Would you mind sharing where'd you go? What was going on?
Yeah, man. It's nothing too fancy. I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's where we live now. But I was over in Wisconsin, just working for one of my companies. We do a lot of like dinner seminars. So we fill live events for people to sell their products or their services. And one of the companies that I own happens to be a walk-in bathtub company. So not super sexy, man. But I was out in Wisconsin. Meeting with people to make their homes more long-term livable and accessible from a bathing safety standpoint.
Rylee, I'll tell you one thing. As soon as you said that, my mother came in the picture. Yeah, because we were thinking about installing something like that because it's harder for her. She's like in her 80s, so it's kind of harder for her to lift her leg. And as soon as you said that, I said, "Wow, that's so amazing." Yeah. So I didn't find it not sexy. I found it interesting when you told me. But I always like to kind of allow the guests to introduce themselves. I know we jumped into the talk, but would you like to take the stage and kind of get us up to speed of what you do and where you're from and what's going on?
Yeah, man, absolutely. So like I said, I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota now. I'm originally from South Dakota. That is a state here in the US, one of the 50. A lot of people don't know where that even is. But it's a great place to be from, but there's not a whole lot going on there. I think the whole state has about 300,000 people in it. And so it was I was eager to get just to move on to bigger things, really. And literally the day I graduated high school, I moved up here to the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, St. Paul area. And, I've always had kind of that entrepreneurial bug or journey or desire, I guess we'll call it, really since the age of 15. I took my very first job at the age of 15 in South Dakota, making pizzas at a gas station. And I worked 1 8-hour shift. I did the math in my head, man, and minimum wage back then in the olden days, we're talking, this was like 2002, 2001, maybe. If minimum wage was $5.15 an hour. So I worked that 8 hours. I did the math in my head and I thought, there's no way I'm doing that again. And that my first day on the job was actually my last. And that's when I really kind of dove into entrepreneurship, not really knowing what I was doing, but I knew the biggest thing that I knew was that, I didn't want to allow somebody else to put a value on my time. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but what really got me fired up after that 8-hour shift was that I allowed somebody else to put that value on my time. And it wasn't like an arrogant way, but it was like, I just knew I wasn't going to trade time for money. I was no longer going to serve money, just with the lifestyle that I wanted to live. I wanted to actually do the things I wanted to do, and not let money really dictate that. And that being said, I knew I had to find other ways to make money, right? To actually provide value to the marketplace. And that's really what I kind of started my entrepreneurship journey. Man, from then, fast forward, I'm 30. How old am I now? 36. It's hard to sometimes remember how old I am, but I've started multiple different companies, really 8 of them in the last decade. Every single one we've taken to 7. A couple of them we hit 8 figures within the very first year of each. We've done 9 figures in sales between cumulative between all of those, and it's great. I'm great in the sense that we've developed a system. And really, I think that's the biggest thing. If you're looking to, I truly don't believe there's any sort of thing as true passive income. but you can put systems in place that will allow you to, adjust levers and make those adjustments on the fly if need be. And as I mentioned, man, one of those systems that I had in place was, or one of the companies and products within the system was walk-in bathtubs.
Amazing.
So yeah.
Well, that's great. That 8-9 figure sounds beautiful. And, that's the mission here at the show too. We try to bring individuals on the show that have reached that success, because there's so many people in the audience that, really want to get to that point. We also have a lot of audience members that are at that point. But it's really, it's the mindset component of it, right? Like, what's your foundation like? Personality wise, you just seem great. And it's so great that you have actually achieved those tiers. But let me ask you this. So when you were switching, when you actually went into the entrepreneurship realm, were you worried? Like, was it scary, or was it a very slow transition? Was it something that you kind of just try a couple of things each day kind of thing, or you just made a decision, went all in? How was that?
Yeah, definitely. You hit it on the head, man, with a mindset shift, because I really believe entrepreneurship it's a mindset. It's not that you own a business or that you run a Fortune 500 company. You can be an employee and still operate as an entrepreneur, because the root word of entrepreneur, the French word of that is entreprendre. I can't speak French, right? But but what it really means is to undertake. And that's literally all it means. Like, are you willing to undertake the task at hand? And that right now, in the season of life that any of your listeners are in, they could be working that 9-to-5 job, trading time for dollars, whatever that is, but they can still operate in the mindset of an entrepreneur, that I'm going to operate in excellence in everything that I do, no matter what I put my hands to, because that's the God-given calling that I believe we all have on our lives. Like, steward what you have well now, in order for you to have the responsibility to be able to handle larger things. And that was my mindset. I can't say right out the gates, but my mindset was back, when I was 15. It's like, you just want to make some money, right? Like, I wanted a car to take my girlfriend on a date and do Lord knows what, right? Like that, but that's the season of life that I was in. But here's the biggest thing that I learned was, in the small community that I mean, our community, who we put ourselves around is going to be the number one factor in determining what we would qualify as success, because each of us here has a different definition of success. My version is not yours, and it shouldn't necessarily be no different than anybody else's version. Some people's idea of success has zero to do with money. It could be that they have the time. Now, I will say, typically it takes a lot of money in order to have time to spend with your kids and not have the stress or worry about how you're paying your bills. But whatever your version of success is, the key to achieving that, this is what I found. Okay, now this is what works for me, but is I scanned the environment that I was in, and I looked for the fruit in other people's lives that I wanted. And when I didn't see it in the town of 900 people that I was growing up in, I realized I had to put myself in a different environment. I had to get super intentional. I had to pay money. I had to take the time to put myself in different environments. And what I found myself doing was, once a month, it wasn't a lot, but once a month, I drove up here to the Twin Cities. It was a 5-hour drive one way, and I would attend what was called success training seminars. I didn't know that there were other people that actually thought this way, that understood just I wasn't exposed to like personal development. I had no clue what that even meant until I started to see people that had that desire. And I was open to all sorts of different books. I was listening to CDs, back in the olden days on my drive, of people like Zig Ziglar and in sales and Norman Vincent Peale, and just like the magic of thinking big. And it was just like, oh my goodness, this is entrepreneurship, a mindset shift. And that's what I fully engulfed myself into, which then allowed me to just provided more opportunities based upon the people that I was surrounding myself with.
Yeah, it's funny that you know how you said that you had that bug, right? You wanted to do something in entrepreneurship. I find it that bug exists in every single human being, is because that we were, I feel like every human being has been put on the earth for a purpose.
Yeah.
And they feel that purpose will come alive through entrepreneurship. But really, I feel like it's that creativity that's trying to come out, because we're creative beings. It's like we're itching, like, I need to do something. I need to create. And then if the messages, the experiences, the parents' experience, the environment, those voices, right? They start talking them down, say, no, you can't, just stay in the job. But really, we need to kind of, open our wings, get out there, try, push, because entrepreneurship is a beautiful thing as long as you have that foundation of mindset, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I mean, just to even elaborate on that, we coach. So I have a coaching company called the King's Council, and it is primarily, really, it's more of a ministry than anything else. But the foundation of what we discuss and build upon, it's for entrepreneurs, because I believe we are all entrepreneurs. If we are created in the image of God, I believe God was the first entrepreneur, and the fact that he undertook the task at hand. And when we look at actual creation, there's creation in itself. And then God created the creatures, and then he created us as co-creators with him. And what I mean by that is that God created, we've probably heard this before, God created a tree, but he made us to then create a table, right? Like if you think God created everything on the earth
pointers,
within 6 days of creation, and then he gave us a template, a blueprint essentially of how we can co-create and look for opportunities based upon, the things that he's given us and already provided us. So everything that's been created is from something else, right? Unless you're like, even if you're inventing something, it's from an idea that was spurred from something else, or a need in the marketplace. And as an entrepreneur, our job is really head on a swivel, look for opportunities. And then how do we fill that need? How do we provide value to the marketplace? And that's like basically our sole purpose. Part of our purpose is to provide value to others. How can I co-create and provide value to others?
Yes.
And then sometimes we can get paid a heck of a lot of money by doing so, right? Like that's entrepreneurship. And sometimes you don't get paid a lot of money by doing so, which is, but it's you're still providing value to the marketplace.
Yeah, it's all about, that's the focus, right? Before, when I was an entrepreneur earlier on, it was always about get, a comparison, right? Like always trying to get, and it felt frustrating because I'll be pushing to get a goal. And if I didn't hit it, I was like, what's wrong with me? Right. Kind of thing. And those voices, but that once I had that transformation, I realized is that once you kind of calm those voices, once you calm that mind, once you're in your true essence and you just operate from there, you get that creativity just seep in. Like, it's just so beautiful. Like you just start, like you're guided, right? Like just actually holding your hand and telling you, okay, do this. And you just take those steps and it just feels like you're on air. There's like flow, ease and flow, right? I call it. Sure. And because, well, a lot of people call it, but it's about that feeling, is that when you're guided into going towards your goal, that feeling is like you'll never get it with a chaotic mind. With a calm mind, you start experiencing it, right? It's so beautiful.
Most definitely, man. And I would even go as far to say, you mentioned goals, which goals are great. Goals are a means mandatory to an end. It's like we're achieving something, but the point of a goal is that you're achieving a higher vision that you have for your life, right? And I'll lay this out for you, if it's all right, man, of the blueprint. This is again, back to creation, on the blueprint that God has given us, on how I believe that it works every single time. And if you apply it within structure, in the order, in the process that we take people through. And it's all right. I'll run through this real quick, man. So so day one, God said, let there be light. Okay. A lot of people think like when let there be light, that there is like, that's when the sun was created, right? Like that must have been. But if you read in the creation kind of timeline, the sun and the moon and things weren't created until day 4. Okay. So what let there be light then? What does that actually mean? So God, essentially when God spoke, first off, he spoke everything into existence. Okay. The power of our words right there is prime. It's key. So what are you speaking over yourself and over your environment is so clutch and key with what you're producing. Okay. What are you bringing about in your life? Is it negativity or positivity? So when God said, let there be light, essentially he cast vision and his energy into existence. Okay. So vision, if you don't have a proper vision for anything that you're creating, you're gonna foundationally have some issues. And this can be not just in business, man, but I found this so much even in my relationship with my wife, right? Or the relationship with my first wife, we had no vision. Okay, hence my first wife, right? I'm in vision with Ash, my wife. Now we've been married for 6 years, but foundationally we've been able to build this because we have a vision of what we are doing together. Okay. And if any of my businesses, there's a clear vision of what we're going to do. Day 2, then God separated the heavens from the earth. Essentially what he was doing was creating the atmosphere. Okay. In your business, I would call this the culture, the environment that you're creating. In your home life, what's the environment that you've got in your home life? Okay. Because if the vision is clear, we can now then create a proper environment. Day 3, God essentially peeled back the waters and he allowed for land to appear, and then the plants and the vegetation to actually grow. Okay. So this would be the structure in your business. There is actually a formal structure that God created in order for carbon monoxide to turn into oxygen, right? And just this whole process of holy cow, now we have structure in our life. So your business, this would be like, what is your business plan? What is your playbook? In your relationship, do you and your spouse have a playbook that you're running off of? Like, hey, Thursday nights is date night. That's a non-negotiable for us. And that's just what we're going to do. Day 4, then order. God created, this is where he created the sun and the moon. He actually created the stars in the sky, the galaxies and things. And so he created the seasons and the time. Essentially, it allows us to track things and measure things. So we know all of this in business. It's like, you can't manage what you're not measuring. Right? If you don't have any order in your business, it's impossible for us to have any structure and have a good culture and have proper vision. And this is the importance, Shahid, that's if you are rushing through these, or if you're not properly setting these up in order, because this is where I struggled big time, is I rushed to day 5, which is momentum. And it's like, bam, bam, I'm gonna just crush, thinking that the money's gonna take care of itself. But I had no systems and things in place that allowed me to ultimately, day 6 is to multiply and go forth and have true dominion. I could never scale anything because I didn't have these proper foundational steps in place. And so that's again just a quick little blueprint that I would stress people to go off of. No matter you're looking to create a rock star relationship, you're looking to create a new business idea, or even how you can implement that into your existing business to foundationally get the thing set up so you can actually go forth, multiply, and scale and crush whatever business or marketplace that you're actually in.
Foundation is everything, right?
Yes.
Like it's all about foundation. And sometimes we get really excited. We jump and we just try to go and just do it, So yeah, I'm doing a lot of work. I remember I used to work like 15, 16 hours in a day. I was like, at the end, I was like tired as hell. I was like, yes, I feel good. Like I worked a lot today. I did good because I grew up with that mentality that when my dad was working a lot, everybody would say subconsciously, I guess it was embedded in me. Everybody will say, he's a hardworking guy. He's a successful person. But that was embedded. So I'm working hard. Maybe I'm successful, but the results weren't matching. I was just going about it the wrong way. My foundation wasn't there. And foundation, I agree with you, is everything. Everything.
Yeah. Very good, man. I love it.
Yeah. So are you Like, are you manufacturing, by the way, those tubs that you mentioned, right? Are you manufacturing those or are you reselling them? How does that?
Yeah, so here's the thing, man. I am the least mechanical person on the face of this earth. I was just happy that when I turned my computer on, this worked. There's not the only callus I have on my hand are actually, I lift weights. So, but that's all that's from. So literally my wife hangs the pictures in our house. Thank God. Because it's not I know my giftings, and it certainly isn't that. So, and this is where I think just how we as entrepreneurs can operate so well together is if we understand that we don't have to be the end all be all for all people and all things, right? It's like we just need to align with people that have vision for whatever maybe their product or their service is, right? Like some people have the greatest product in the world, the greatest service in the world, but if nobody knows about it, they aren't helping anybody, right? Including themselves. And so where I've realized that one of the things that I felt like I was able to get very good at here was client acquisition, customer acquisition. And it never mattered really what the product or service was. Morally and ethically, obviously, it had to be good. We had to be providing a good product, a good service to the marketplace. But I realized that a lot of people have great products and great services. They just didn't know how to reach the masses or how to actually get people to know about it. And so that's what I've been doing for the last decade with our company called the Social Dynamic Selling System. It's a client acquisition system, and a lot of it is through dinner seminars. So we've done everything from, my own companies and then others that we consult for now, where we fill rooms with our ideal client and prospect. And then we create a story, essentially, that what's the emotional journey that we can take our potential customers on to get them to know us, like us, and trust us, right? To ultimately then make that decision to either buy or not, right? It can certainly be not to not purchase, but at the end of the day, if there's anything we've got good at, it is getting people to make a decision, because so many people just do not make decisions. Therefore, let life happen at them and wake up 3-4 years down the road and just wonder, well, I'm not really doing anything that I wanted to do. And it's like, well, it's because you're neglecting making decisions on what you should do. So we've sold everything, man, from walk-in tubs, like I said, to my first company was selling insulation. Again, it's not like I have any passion or excitement about that, to solar panels, regenerative medicine. We have an insurance agency. We do these for real estate syndicates. You name it, man. It doesn't really matter what the product is. It needs to be higher ticket, of course, with this type of system that we use. But it's just creating an environment where people just naturally want what we have to offer or to sell. And so that's what I do, man. There's no way awesome. I'm getting any dirt under these fingernails. So
no, that's awesome, Rylee. That makes sense, because I can relate to that, because when we're looking at growing a business, or like, for example, coaching business, people that are in coaching, there's so many of them. Right? And they're trying to find their ideal clients or ideal partners to do business with, but nobody knows them, right? So that's why we do that Done For You podcast, because they create a platform where they rub shoulders with their ideal clients and prospects and partners. Just like, this is exactly like I'm talking to you. Who knows where this goes, right? Mutually, who knows where that goes, right?
Yeah. Same so you guys do a Done For You podcast?
Yeah, that's what we do for coaches, mentors, trainers, and consultants, because our mission is that we feel like they're such amazing, like, quality skills out there that are not getting into the hands that need them, because coaches, they change the world, right? So if they're not being seen, if they're not being heard, if they're just under the mat and they're just needle in the haystack, right? So that just creates a platform where exactly what I did for myself is the same way. Is you need to get known. If you don't get known, if people don't trust you, exactly what you were saying. So I can relate to that. But I wanted to ask you a question about that seminar that you set up. Is like only once, or do you do packages with businesses? So for example, someone manufactures carpets, for example. Will you do a package, say, okay, this year we need to do 5 times these seminars, and I'll get the people that you want to do business with in the same room, and we'll do this seminar? How does it work exactly?
Yeah, well, the first thing that we always do is we start out with a strategy call. So it's probably a 30-minute just call, introduction of, because I have a course that somebody can go through and they can literally learn everything and go do it themselves. Many people have done this that are now doing 6 and 7 figures, doing seminars on their own. And then we get some for that just are like, this is too much for me to take on myself. Kind of like you got a done for you podcast, right? Like let's hire the experts. And that's where we start out with a strategy call, just to determine if it's going to make sense, because I'm never going to suggest somebody just try one seminar and then see if it works out. Right. Because it's just more. It's kind of like, I think you even said when the very beginning of just like entrepreneurs, we try things. As entrepreneurs, we need to get into a mindset of training versus trying. Okay. When we're in the mindset that I'm continual training, no matter what, I'm training to get better every single day. I'm increasing my capacity for more, versus when we say we're going to try something, it's like we're preloading an excuse in the fact that at least we tried. When I fail, at least I tried. Like that's a bunch of BS to me. Like there's no such thing as failure in my world. There's only feedback. Right. And if I'm training, that's the mindset, because I'm going to continually get better. I'm going to learn, make some adjustments, pivot, and then maybe hire the right person instead of trying to do it on my own. That therefore I can get better. I'm going to train to get better. So we start out with that strategy call, and we're going to determine, number one, does this make sense for this type of product? Is there a high enough margin in order for us to sustain an ongoing campaign? Okay. Because if somebody if there's no marketing budget, this isn't for you, right? Because this is going to take some money to do. We do a ton of direct mail, and we fill in the room with, your ideal client. And then we've got to build a presentation. Okay. Some people are gifted at speaking to groups, but it's different than the person just speaking one-on-one. Okay. So we coach on how to speak to affect or to touch each person in the room individually, even though you're in the group. And then ultimately how to create scarcity and sense of urgency for people to actually meet with you one-on-one in order to actually provide the price or, close the deal. Right. So it's a process to this. And we typically will not take a client on unless they're going to commit to 8 weeks of events, 8 seminar series for this real reason, man. It's sometimes we do a lot of direct mail. It's not the only thing we do, but I love direct mail as the highest results form of marketing within the dinner seminar space. And sometimes, as much as I love it, sometimes the mail hits funky, right? Or the postal service is just didn't do their end of the bargain here. And if that happens the first time, you would be like, well, seminars don't work. Right. And I can promise you that's not the case. I got 9 figures reasoning why that's not the case. Okay. It works. There's a process here. And so we want people to trust the process here and hold their hand, walking them through this process to develop that seminar campaign. Plus there's a lot of things involved, like geographically, where are we hosting these? Okay. And is your product or your service limited to a geographic region? For instance, walk-in bathtubs, I need to have somebody that can install these in that area. I can't just throw a dart at a map, sell something and then think I'm all done. Right. Like there's the back end, there's the fulfillment side of things that we need to make sure is in place as well, because more times than not, Shahid, we've overran companies and we've literally put them out of business for it's terrible, but we got too many sales. Okay. And while it can be a good problem, it's still a problem. And if we selling something that we're not able to fulfill, reputation and everything is gone. Right. So we have to back to the structure and the order. All of that has to be in place. Foundationally, we've got to have those in place, before we can actually build the campaign. Now, I can promise you and say so confidently, man, that there is not a better form of marketing and sales from a system standpoint than dinner seminars. If you have a product or a service with high enough margins. Okay. Now, if you're selling a $48 real estate course, we're not the system for you, right? No. There's got to be enough lifetime value to your customer in order to make this thing long-term work.
Yeah. It's, I can hear the passion, right? And you could tell when someone, is speaking about the product or service, you see that, you could sense that passion. And I can see that it provides results for people. So if it provides results for people, it's a very unique offer. I honestly didn't really even know about this before. It's my first time learning it, right? And that's why I love doing this show. So I learned so many new things, but this is such a niche way for a high ticket product to get immediate sales. Just like how we do in coaching, we do events, virtual ones, right? We get people coming in on Zoom. Yep. It's similar to this, but they're getting dinner, you're getting intimate in a nice environment.
Yep.
And you actually becoming, you're connecting with them one-on-one.
Yep, exactly right. And that's a huge component to it, man. At the end of the day, people want to do business with those that they, again, know they like and they trust.
100%.
And you don't build that overnight. That's built by breaking bread together. Forming, just putting laws in place, like the law of reciprocity. Like, hey, I'm going to buy you dinner, but you got to listen to me. Right. And now we're giving and we're taking like any normal relationship would.
Yeah.
And then when it comes time to, if I provide enough value for something that they want, because people don't buy what they need, they buy what they want. Right. Like I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make him drink. But I could put salt in that horse's oats. And for some reason, he just wants to drink. Right. And that's what we have to do as marketers. We've got to put salt in those horses' oats and expose things that they maybe didn't even know that they needed.
Yeah.
But when they have that revelation and they're like, okay, you know what? I want this. That's when we just open up an entire new type of environment or culture where now, I just happen to have that. And here's how much it is. And then it's no longer us asking for the sale. We're filling orders at that point.
Love it. Give them what they want, not what they need.
Yeah,
I love that. Exactly. It's so amazing. And Rylee, can you share, and we always like to ask our guests this, but can you share what your inner superpower is that got you to this point?
Inner superpower, man. I would say the quest to continually be a student in the fact that I don't know everything. I'll be the first to tell you that. Yes, a permanent student. Yes,
I like that. Yeah, yes. I consider myself the same thing. That's awesome.
Yeah, because I think anybody who doesn't, if you think you've arrived and you are the end all be all, bro, I can find 3 people that are passing you by with that type of mindset.
And so there's a lot of entrepreneurs like that, though.
Absolutely,
like there's a lot. Yeah.
And then something like in 2020, something like that happens. And all of a sudden I could tell you there's not a person on this earth that didn't have their business affected. Now the effect was either positive or negative. And I really believe no matter what business you're in or industry you're in, remember, dude, I host live events in restaurants. So 2020 lockdowns, do you think I was affected? 100%. But I can so confidently tell you, man, that we came out of that stronger than ever because we were head on a swivel of like, okay, there's some serious stuff going on here. And as an entrepreneur, we got to be watching the marketplace and going, okay, where is a need? Where can I provide value? And I'll tell you, out of that time, man, this is a plug for podcasting, done for you podcasting. I started what was called I don't do it anymore, but I had the Sales Conversion Podcast, and I did 65 interviews over like 7 months. And I did 7 figures out of that podcast.
Amazing.
And so some of them,
see it works.
Yeah, it absolutely works, man. It absolutely works. But you've got to, it's not that, but there's an intention behind it. Yes. And what I mean by that is working with somebody that does done for you podcasts that can help you go, maybe this is why we should invite this person on to speak versus just because if you're doing a podcast to be Joe Rogan, I mean, go get a hobby, right? If you've got strategy and intention behind it on who you're getting on your show and the reason why and how you're getting them on, and then the, leading up to it, and then after it, you can make some incredible contacts, meet some amazing world changers, and truly then align and build some great relationships and businesses out of that process. And that's exactly what I did, man. So I'm a huge proponent for experts in the podcast arena.
Love it, Rylee. Love it. It's amazing because, we're all human, right? And we all kind of, we're connected. So when we create an environment like this, those relationships build so much easier because, you're creating a nice environment for people to meet. And then the biggest thing is that you're adding value, right? You're giving value. Right. And that should always be the top, is just try to give as much value. I feel like money and success, all that stuff is like a default. It's like a byproduct, of value, right? So this is
absolutely great. But most people have the opposite mindset, man. Most people are doing to get. And in an effort, in essence, they're serving money versus serving the human being in the process, right? I think we've all been there. Absolutely, man.
And that's my mission. That's why I want to spread this awareness by doing these interviews, that people can hear this. Say, listen, get out of your own way. You need to reprogram some stuff, and then let's see where it goes. And I'm telling you, where it's gonna go is way, way better. Than you can ever imagine. So.
Love it.
This is great, Rylee. I appreciate you took the time to come on our show. You must be so busy doing a lot of construction work. No, I'm just joking.
Right?
You don't do any hands-on.
Got my work belt on over here.
Work belt on. Yeah. No, that's awesome, my friend. It was a pleasure meeting you. If there's any kind of last suggestions or recommendations or any kind of help you could provide the audience, that'll be great.
Man, here's the thing. So I went through that 7-day that creation blueprint, which I've got an entire series and curriculum on that. But I've put together like a cheat sheet that I would love to. If people are curious on that, it's like, here's the blueprint of how to create a good business, not a good business, a great business, how to have a great relationship. Because as an entrepreneur, this was the epitome of who I was. I was chasing the next business, the next business, the next business. Meanwhile, the relationships in my life were terrible. Okay. Because the relationship that I had was between me and the business. And I had spent zero time creating vision, atmosphere, structure, and order for what I would have lied and said is the most important thing in my life. How many entrepreneurs, it's like, well, what's important to you? Well, it's my family. I'm calling BS on 99% of them, because most of us are chasing the next thing. And we're telling ourselves that it's because I want to provide that life for my family. Then if you want to provide that life for your family, start doing it today, right now, steward what you have well. Okay. Because money will only make you more of who you already are. It's the great magnifier. So if you are a butthead right now, you're just going to be a rich butthead. Okay. If you care, if you take some time, if you have empathy, if you actually can emotionally engage with somebody, be in the present right now, and then you get money, dude, you can be a world changer, but steward what you have well right now. So the point of that, Shahid, is if anybody wants that blueprint, they can text the word 7 or the number, just literally the number 7 to 727-472-3860. And we'll immediately respond back with a blueprint, that 7-day creation blueprint on how they can start to apply that into their own lives.
Amazing. That's such an amazing gift and such a great offer that you shared with us on the show. And an audience, it'll be in these show notes like any time. Like we always get that prime information shared in the show notes, so you can actually quickly go and copy it and text Rylee. And thank you so much, audience, for joining us each and every time with these wonderful, wonderful people that are making a change in this world. I want you guys to know it's all an internal game. You change that internal world, and I'm telling you, it opens up a massive, massive incredible, beautiful new world, and focus on that. And then you'll see the shifts everywhere else, just like everyone else that comes on the show are displaying. Again, join us on my Instagram, official Shahid Durrani. Send me a DM, message, comment, whatever. Love hearing from you. And Rylee, appreciate your time. I know when you get to that level, it gets really, really hectic, but also gets calmer because you can delegate, automate, So I understand you're busy, but not hectic busy. So I'm still grateful that you took the time to come on the show. And if there's any opportunity where I could introduce you to others, because the information that you provided was very valuable and very authentic, very deep. The deep information means so much to me. And I wish you all the best and the growth and success that you could possibly have.
Thank you, Shahid. It's been fun, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.